So, hello everyone, and thank you to be here. It has been a funny beginning for the ones who are with us in the virtual room. So, greetings from Turin. I'm Serena Carta, and I work for ONG 2.0. That is an online community focused on delivering information and trainings about ICT's Web 2.0 for social impact. Today we are going to discuss a little bit around ICT for the in a gender perspective. We have some experts who are going to stay with us for approximately 1 hour and a half. So I don't want to speak too much because we have great experts who are going to explain us many things. So I just want to tell you that you can ask questions and make comments during the webinar just using the question and the answer panel. On your right, you have the panel control and you can ask questions. I will be in charge to collect your questions, and then at the end of the webinar, we will ask these questions to our experts. Said that, please enjoy this moment with us. So switch off your mobile phones and tell the others that you are busy with this online meeting. If you love Twitter and if you would like to live tweeting together with us, you can use the hashtag ICT for gender. So that also the people that are not with us, they can follow our discussion. And I think that this is all from me. I will give the floor to my colleague Valeria Pecchioni from CCM, who is going to tell you something about the organization with whom we are organizing this webinar and why we are organizing this webinar. So Valeria, I will give you the right to share your screen. Okay.
Can you see it?
So we can see you. Okay, now we can see your screen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Serena. As you were saying, I'm Valeria from CCM, which is one of the organizations that participated to this idea of organizing this webinar. So I will briefly introduce you our organization, our activity in Burundi, which is concerning sexual violence, which was the occasion to develop a partnership with ONG 2.0 in order to activate a crowd mapping activity in the country. So CCM is an NGO that was established in 1968 in Turin to promote the right to health for all. We are an independent and non-religious organization, and our inspiring principles are pluralism and acceptance of others, solidarity as an act of justice, honesty, and transparency. We are about 500 employees and 65 volunteers who are committed to the right to health. We work in Italy, as well in 6 countries in the eastern part of Africa, which are among the poorest countries where the health indicators are the worst in the world. In 2015, we would like to implement 26 projects supporting and improving the health services of 133 health facilities through the training and building the capacities of more than 1,000 health workers and social workers. in order to benefit and improve the health of more than 800,000 people. So I put here in this slide some of our keywords in order to describe CCM approach to international cooperation. We consider health in a broader sense, so we don't think just to remove illnesses, but also to improve the well-being of the people. We focus on long-term development through participation of local communities, especially working on capacity building of local institutions, but also local community-based or non-governmental organization. One of our of the key aspect of our work is related to technologies, in particular to appropriate technologies, and that's why we're very happy to have this webinar tonight to discuss the issue of ICTs for gender. And as I mentioned, we really focus on communities and not just on the individuals or part of or specific groups. What we do, we work on maternal and child health, on infectious diseases, on surgery, on vulnerable groups, and access to water. We address problems of some vulnerable groups, like the victim of sexual violence, and that's why in 2011 we started a project in Burundi, a pilot project aiming at decentralizing services for victims of sexual violence in 3 provinces. We are implementing this project in partnership with a Burundian organization, the initiative Seruka pour les victimes de viol, the local concerned ministries, and the Gynecologues Sans Frontières. We are supported by the European Commission in this project and other international donors. We hope with this project to benefit a lot of people because we estimate that in the area of work, in the area of the project, there are about 60,000 women and 3,000 men, of which about 38,000 are children, who are victims or potential victims of sexual violence. In our project, we work on 2 main axes. On one end, we try to improve the prevention of the sexual abuse and raise awareness on the rights of the victims and the services that are available. And as well, we try to strengthen the services for the victims in different aspects of their needs, going from the healthcare to the legal assistance. In the framework of the project, we had developed a research in 2013 in order to gather information on the phenomenon of sexual violence in Burundi. And some of the results we shared and that were confirmed also by the other actors working in Burundi on the issue raised the need to address some issues. First of all, to raise more international attention on the issue of sexual violence in the country, to advocate towards the Burundian government to strengthen and invest on services for the victims, to have more opportunities of information and data sharing among the actors that are committed to address the problem in the country, to increase access for the victims to the existing services, and create some channels of communication through which observers and the victims can anonymously report the violence. And we also were told, and we reported from the research, that more material to improve the activities of prevention and awareness raising was needed. That's why, considering all these aspects, we thought that a system of crowd mapping through mobile phones and social networks could be a good answer to address all these points. And CCM identified ONG 2.0 as a potential partner to support ISV, our Burundian partner, in the implementation of this activity. So I will let Viviana from ONG 2.0 to introduce and explain better what we have done until now in Burundi. I take the opportunity to thank you all for your participation to the webinar, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you your comments and contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valeria. Thank you very much. So, for your presentation, I will give now the floor to our moderator, Ouejadane, who was able to change her name. Good to know, Ouejadane. So I will also give you the right to share your screen now. And Ouejadane, she is going to help us in finding the fil rouge among all the presentations that we are going to listen now. Okay, here you are. Okay, Ouejadane, now you should be able to show your screen. And I have to unmute your micro, of course. Here we are. Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we don't see your screen.
Everybody.
Hello?
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
We see your screen.
Welcome, everybody. I am Ouejadane Mejri. I am an ICT researcher in not in development, but in crisis management. So it is quite, let's say, close field to what we are going to discuss today. I will be the moderator of this webinar. So I welcome everybody. And thank you for participating to looking for a gender perspective in ICT for development. And I thank the organizers for this opportunity. The aim of the webinar of today is to try to look at the gender perspective in ICT for development processes. We are going to explore facts, realities, and to try to understand which kind of solutions were developed in the experience that our participants will present us, and also try to understand which are the contradictions and paradoxes that may come out from the use of ICT regarding the gender issue. All this will be done through theoretical aspects that will be presented by our panelists, some case studies and real experiences of their organizations, and also about stories of women. The program of today, after our introduction, is to give the floor to Ineke Buskens for her presentation, Voice, Agency and Intentional Purpose, a reflection on impact and process of the GRACE network. Afterwards, we hope to have Brenda Zulu that may join us. We will expect for her. Afterwards, Viviana Matza, that is here with us, will present. We'll have a presentation. We proposed a name for this presentation because we know that Viviana will face, let's say, the question of the use of ICT in gender issues for development, with a discussion of the pro and the counter, let's say, situations and conditions that we may face. Afterwards, Viviana and Viviana Brun and then we will conclude at 7:15 with some considerations about what will be presented, and afterwards we will open the discussion with the public, so we can have your questions through the chat, and we will collect them and discuss with our panelists. So let me give the floor to our first panelist, Ineke Buskens. She's an international gender researcher and consultant living in South Africa. Ineke Buskens will present us her experience and the results of the huge work that was made in the GRACE network that involves 28 research teams in 18 countries in Africa and in the Middle East. So let me give the floor to Ineke and to try to understand what are these results, what are the reflections on the impact and the process of the GRACE network.
Thank you. Good evening, you all. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can, Ineke. Yes, we can. We are hearing you.
Okay, good. Okay. Can you show my slides, or are they already seen?
No, we don't see your slide. You should share them.
Okay.
You can open them, and so we can see them.
All right. You see, for an ICT researcher, I'm pretty unsophisticated. Okay. Because I'm working here with two computers. One of them has the Okay. Well, maybe I should talk without them then. Or no.
I think that they are quite interesting, your slides. So if you can open them,
Okay,
it will be...
Yeah. Better. Sorry for this.
Maybe if Viviana Mazza is ready, maybe we can... Ineke, if you need some time to search for your... Oh, okay. Ouejadane... Okay. Maybe Ouejadane can share her screen and...
I'll have them just now. 1 second.
Okay. Otherwise, Ouejadane can share her screen and you can speak on her slides.
Okay. I'm so sorry for this.
So that because it's already, yes, 6:30. So that we... what do you think, Ouejadane? Can you share your screen with the slides?
Yes, if you give me the possibility, I will share the screen. Yes.
Okay. So So
I have
let's.
them.
Okay. Okay. So Ineke, you can
Okay,
speak.
here we are.
Okay. Woo. There are some children who are making some noise.
That is not from my side.
Okay, so it's maybe okay. It's
Wait,
maybe
Serena, is there a way?
yes. Yes, Ineke. Yes, Ineke.
Okay. Is there a way how you can use the presentation that I sent you?
Yes, we are already seeing it. We have shared it.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
You see?
Okay,
Done.
right.
Okay, so
Sorry
you
for
can
all
start.
this. Now, of course, so can I start?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for all this. There is a lot to say, of course, about Serena. I think this is the wrong presentation.
Yes, I can see it. Unfortunately, what I shared to Ouejadane was the one that you sent me firstly, because yes, it was not. I thought that you were using your presentation, so I didn't.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
So can we take the next slide?
Yes, so we can skip
Okay.
the slides that are not useful.
Yes, exactly. So I think that you can skip these the presentation. Exactly. Thank you, Ouejadane.
Okay. So there is a lot to say about a big project like this. It started actually with a request in 2003 from the United Nations because it was at the WISIS in Geneva. Because it was obvious that not much was known from women in Africa about their experiences in the information society. In those times, the whole concept of the digital gender gap was very important. So the different agencies were concerned about this, and the International Development Research Center in Canada suggested that they were able to do something about it. And they used their networks in Africa, and a collection of teams came forward. Some of them were gender activists, some of them were ICT activists, some of them were academicians. And that was the beginning of the GRACE network. So we started our work in 2005 with 14 teams in 12 African countries. And in 2008, we were joined by 14 teams from the Middle East. Now, there are many things you can say about what we found and what we learned. And so I'm presenting just a very specific perspective, and that has to do with my particular position as the leader and the research director, and the type of questions that I am dealing with. So I encourage you, if you have specific questions to specific countries, then approach the teams yourself. All in all, in the two phases, there were 28 teams involved in 18 countries. And in this presentation, I'm only speaking about the second phase, where there were 21 teams presenting their work and contributing to the second book of our network. Now, the second book of our network is called Women and ICT in Africa and the Middle East, Changing Selves, Changing Societies. And for me, the title says it all already. Because when you think about development, you have to realize that development means very many different things to a lot of people, and development can mean that a human being flourishes, you know, the old Aristotelian concept, flourishing, that like a flower unfolds its petals, like trees develop, grow. It's only natural that human beings develop. But of course, in our current time of a lot of geopolitical struggles and revolutions and terror and unhappiness, international development has also come to mean certain things for certain people. I'm telling you this because the network that I lead it comprises women and men leaders from their specific country who are very willing to collaborate in the field of international development, but who are quite skeptical of the way how the so-called developing countries are very often portrayed, like what we call the deficiency paradigm. Like, there is so much wrong in the global south, in the so-called developing countries. We all have to go and rush there and help them. Having said that, I appreciate genuine care. Everybody appreciates genuine care. And that is so wonderful about ICT, that when you really care, you can connect almost instantaneously. And we all know that human beings thrive on connection. We are made to collaborate, we are made to share, we are designed to care for each other. New research into empathy, into mirror neurons, all shows that we are made to care and share and connect. Now, having said that, let me go a little bit back to this presentation, because this was all very philosophical. So if you can get the next slide. If we can get, yeah. And the next slide again. Then you will see why, coming from this background, for us, for those 28 teams, the concept of voice and agency and intentional purpose was so important, because these teams were doing research in their own countries, with their own people, in their own languages, sometimes in their own workplace. And they didn't see themselves as victims, or they didn't see themselves as less. They saw themselves as human beings that face a particular set of adversities and opportunities and chances. At the same time, we were all growing in terms of our gender awareness and our feminist consciousness, because I believe that, having grown up in a sexist planet, none of us is free of a form of sexism. And I don't think that most of you are old enough to remember one of the old sayings in feminism, which is, sisterhood is powerful, it kills sisters. It is difficult to underestimate how wounded women can be growing up in a male-dominated society, and how easy it is actually to take that out on other women in various ways, consciously or unconsciously, because women are very often used to see other women as second-hand citizens, or either as victims. And so if you want to work with women as a woman, you have a particular challenge. So the gender awareness workshop that I designed, and the research workshops I designed, were encouraging all participants, also the men that we had in our midst, to really take care of ourselves, to reflect on who we are, who we are becoming, to spend time with meditation, with self-care, and to learn what it means to be an agent in your own life. Because how can you encourage other people's agency, even detect women's agency, when you don't know what it means to use your own agency, and when you don't even realize what barriers you face in yourself when it comes to your agency. Now, okay, can I see the next slide? Yeah, can I see the next slide? So, yeah, and the next slide again, because I already spoke a little bit about this. Serena, maybe we can promise everybody that we can send them the real presentation after this. So yes. These are now I'm presenting you now the 3 parts of the book. So you can have a kind of an insight what it was that preoccupied these teams. I clustered the 21 chapters in 3 groups. I could have done it in many different ways, but we were looking at the concept of what is actually empowerment, what happens when women empower themselves according to their own understanding, and what we saw was that with certain chapters, the power of the established gender traditions was very strong, and this was not necessarily linked to lesser education or lesser professional power, because look at chapter 2. We are speaking here about highly educated young women. Same chapter 3, computer science students. Same 4. This researcher in Kenya in the first phase actually looked at the giants in Kenya, the female giants in the Kenyan ICT scene. So and the same for Senegal. We are looking here at female politicians, and yet, you know, over a wide array of educational backgrounds, professional power, the gender traditions were very, very strong. And these first 7 chapters picture that, and they are very valuable, because if you read how those gender traditions work their ways, you may also realize that in your own life as a woman, you may be very empowered economically or educationally. You are facing certain gender traditions. Can I see the next slide? So this brings me to the second part, the next 7 chapters, and what we found was the importance for women of connecting. And this, of course, is very interesting for us who are interested in the potential of ICT for development and women empowerment. Because ICT, when used well, is a wonderful method for connection. Now you will see that here are quite a few Middle Eastern countries, Jordanian bloggers, Palestinian Sherazades, Jordan, Yemen, Egypt. And I think there is a link there between the fact that women, maybe in those countries, gravitate very natural towards each other. There is already a very strong female space. And then to be able to create a female virtual space would be a natural outcome, a natural progression, maybe. But on the other hand, sometimes the physical space is for women in Middle Eastern countries somewhat more limited. So there may be a pull and a push towards using ICT for D for connection. And we found that the relationality is very important for women, because they didn't use these virtual spaces to huddle and to kind of, you know, retract from social space, but to gain their power and find a voice. And so that was very fascinating. That brings us to the next slide, part 3. Yeah, can I see the next slide? And that part 3 is the last 7. No, can I go one back? Yes, these are the chapters where women and sometimes men that were in support of their purposes were changing society. We're not only changing themselves, but we're changing society. And we're using ICTs to do so. Now, if you read chapter 21, which is the last research chapter, you will actually see how much it takes to face society, and how society is changed via family relationships, via neighbors, via your own introspection, and sometimes fighting with yourself for 3 years to change your own behavior. Because, for instance, in Egypt, there are laws that protect women's land ownership. Although they don't inherit in the same way that men inherit, they do inherit land. But the inherited understanding is that men should manage it for them. Even when the woman in question is a professor in agricultural sciences and a well-known international researcher. Even then, the family codes, the society codes can be very strong, and they have to be overcome in the self and not only in society. But in these 7 chapters, you will see change. You will see how much it takes, but you also see change. I don't want to give all the nice ideas away. You can download the book for free from the web. I have been co-author of chapter 16, which brought me back to my own youth as a young anthropology student, when I was very, very angry at women discrimination in general, but especially in the field of female genital mutilation, which in those days was still called female circumcision. Now, in doing that chapter, can you still hear me? Or did I fall away now? Hello?
We can. Yes, we can. Yes,
okay.
We are listening.
Then I'll just continue.
We are hearing you, yes.
Okay.
We are listening. Okay. You have a few minutes more?
Yeah, I had quite a journey with the concept of female circumcision. I wrote a paper in '78 about it. It was the first, according to my coach, it was the first anthropological analysis of female genital mutilation. I presented it very proudly in Dubrovnik, Yugoslavia, in '78. And afterwards I was told by African women and mindful, beautiful women, scientists and poets, to back off and don't take this issue on, but rather my own sexuality. So I found that a turning point in my own life. I backed off. That was in 78, 79. And I took it up again on the request of my co-researcher, Inas Madi from Sudan, who wanted me to write this chapter together with her. And so this book and GRACE have also helped me to come full circle as a Northern researcher concerned about women in the Global South, wanting to do something and trying to find out how to do it, and how to do it in a way that is caring but not condescending, in a way that is empowering, but that also realizes how much the North owes the South, because we have colonized the South, and we have destroyed a lot. And so how do you cope with the inheritance of that? How do you position yourself? Now, I want to leave it at this. It has become a different presentation than I had in mind, but I hope maybe it's useful nonetheless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inke. Let me come back to okay. So actually the slides will be available. So thank you, Ineke, for this very interesting exposition. I think that we have so many elements on which we can discuss and that we can develop afterwards. You said so many things in
a short time.
A few minutes. So I want to wonder to understand if Brenda joined us. I think not yet. So let's move with the talk of Viviana. So Viviana is a freelance journalist. She's Italian and working at the foreign desk of Corriere della Sera, the second most read daily in Italy. She is the author of the book The History of Malala, Storia di Malala, that was printed in 2013. She had lived and worked in Torino, Catania, New York, Cairo, and Milano. And today I think that Viviana will expose to us some contradictions that will explore the freedom in general using ICT, and especially touching the gender issues. And this discussion will cover, we hope, some aspects that Viviana met in her work as a journalist, so some real stories and some reports. So I will let the floor to Viviana.
Yes, hi.
Thank you.
You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen with you. My name is Viviana Mazza. I'm a journalist. I'm an Italian journalist. I lived and worked in the US and Egypt before coming back to Italy in 2006. And I'm not a freelance journalist anymore. Since 2006, I've been at Corriere della Sera at their foreign desk. And I've covered several stories for them, mainly in the Middle East and the United States. And this is what I would like to talk about. I'm not an expert on ICT. I can bring my perspective. As a journalist, I've dealt with many different stories, not just about women, but stories about women happen to be very interesting to me and part of my work. And I would like to talk about three things. One is this report, Freedom on the Net, in 2000. I mean, every year is very interesting, and I would like to start from their what they noticed in 2014. Then I would like to give a few examples of positive and negative experiences they have to do with especially with freedom on the internet and limits to freedom itself. And third, I would like to talk a little bit about the US because it's not just there are some problems as well there. So first thing, this report in 2014, the Freedom on the Net report, was interesting because they, notice every year some emerging threats about, the freedom on the net. And this year they noticed that one of the 4 emerging threats was, regarding women. In a way, I mean, they, in their conclusions and in the report that you can read here, so I'm not going to say much about it, they observed that women continue to face enormous obstacles, both cultural and economic obstacles, to access ICTs. And they noticed that this leads to a significant gender gap in the access to ICTs. And very interesting to me, it's not just a question of an issue of numbers. It's not just, if you want to kind of overcome this gender gap, you can't just, have more women, I mean, how do you, the question is rather, how do you increase participation? They noticed that women are subject to harassment very often and to online attacks, which can lead to some self-censorship. And also to, women will stop expressing themselves online. This was interesting to me, and because I've experienced, I've covered many stories in which women say that, working in the virtual space, as Ineke was saying earlier, has increased their possibility to gain also, a wider space in the society and to find a voice, exactly like she was saying. And at the same time, I've experienced the opposite in a way. In 2009, I was covering the protests in Iran, and at some point, because internet was so important for women and men, to kind of let the world know about their political ideas, some people, like the Italian chapter of Wired magazine, wanted to present the internet for the Nobel Peace Prize. Let's give the Nobel Peace Prize to the internet. And I've interviewed at that time several different experts, and some of them were in favor of it, and some of them were not at all. And they weren't, because they were saying, yes, the internet helps, but can be used also in very negative ways. I wanted to give a couple of examples of internet. I've seen stories of the internet being used for to kind of express yourself beyond political censorship. This is a picture of a woman. The story is in Italian, I'm sorry. This is a website where I publish, it's called the 27th hour, like the number of hours that a woman would need to do all the things in her day, like not 24 but 27, and it's Corriere della Sera, on Corriere della Sera's website. And I'm not the only one who writes here. Like many different journalists, women and men, write about women issues here, and like issues that are also part of men's life, because the problems are often problems of the family as well. And I mainly write about stories about stories in the Middle East and the US. And this is a woman, Suad al-Shamri, who was arrested in Saudi Arabia. She's an activist and a feminist, and she was using Twitter and social media, not only the internet. She was also going on the Lebanese television, but she was doing that to overcome the political censorship, in the media in her own country. And eventually, she was arrested for that. What I found interesting is that she is also, because now she's recently being released, very, very, making fun of people who take women less seriously or don't believe in women's rights, and this approach is allowed and is possible also thanks to the internet. Or this is another. This is the website. My Selfie Freedom is an Iranian website. The woman who created it, Masih Alinejad, she is a journalist. She's currently not living in Iran, but she created this to let women in Iran post pictures of themselves taking off their veil. So many women within the country have posted pictures of themselves. You can see on this website where they take off the veil. They go like to places like in the countryside, and they take pictures and they post them, showing their face without fear. And this is like a way of expressing the need of more personal freedom. And when Rouhani was elected, some of the people who voted for him expressed exactly this desire to have more personal freedoms. Another story that I've reported on is this girl's story, Khushbu. There's actually an Al Jazeera documentary about her, very interesting. You can watch it. She lives in India and in Bihar, in northern India, and she was a 16-year-old when she started making, news, like initially like a paper, as you can see, and then also using video, and through technology, she was telling the stories of her own neighbor, her own village. Stories that weren't told, and especially stories about women. And but her more difficult problem was to avoid getting married at 16. Many of her friends were getting married, and she really didn't want to. And she has managed to avoid that for a while, trying to work and because she's afraid that if she gets married, she will not be able to do this anymore. For her, technology, through telling stories of other people, has been a way, though, of opening up her horizons. But I also want to look at the other side. For instance, in Azerbaijan, and this is one of the stories that is actually quoted in the Freedom on the Net report by Freedom House. This is the story of Khadija Ismailova. She's a very brave journalist in Azerbaijan, and she has been reporting on the corruption of the president, many stories that nobody was reporting on. And this has been possible also thanks to the internet, but at the same time, she was threatened, and the threats against her were very gender-based. Through the same tools, in a way. She was filmed while having sex with her boyfriend in her own bedroom. Like cameras were installed, and then she was threatened that if she didn't behave, then this video would be posted on the internet, and she would be, it would be shameful for her. And she refused. And the video was actually leaked, and it went online and all that. And there were many people who condemned this. But then eventually she was also arrested with some accusations of driving a colleague to suicide. And she's arrested in December 2014. She's been arrested in December 2014. But what is also interesting here is the idea that the internet, in this case, can be used also, to threaten people, and in her case, like gender-based threats. It's not the only case in Pakistan. As you mentioned earlier, the moderator mentioned earlier, I've covered Malala's story, and I've written a book about her. I met her, and Malala's story has a dimension of the importance of information technologies, because initially Malala everything started with her with a diary that was actually anonymous. She was writing under a pseudonym, and she was writing on BBC Urdu online. So it was in Urdu. It was very accessible, because sometimes we think that everybody speaks English, but it's not necessarily so. So this diary that she started to write a diary when in 2009 the Taliban forced all the schools to close down in the Swat Valley. And her diary was very important to let people know within her country what was happening, because they weren't necessarily aware. And so this was very positive for her. But one of and this is another case that is actually mentioned also in the Freedom House report, in Pakistan, people have been killed for owning a cell phone, a mobile phone. Like a woman in a very conservative part of Pakistan in 2013. Or there was another case actually of 3 women, a mother and 2 daughters, who were killed by a stepson because it was an so-called honor killing, because they had filmed themselves with a cell phone dancing and singing under the rain, and this was considered very offensive and shameful for the family. And so and the fact that YouTube and these videos are visible, on one hand, it's maybe it can increase your freedom, but it also was the very reason why these people were killed. I want to go back. I think I don't have much time, but I want to go to this report by the Pew Center. This is America. So sometimes we think, I found it very interesting that Ineke was talking about the deficiency paradigm and the fact that we tend to talk about how much stuff is wrong in other countries, and sometimes we don't look at what is wrong. We don't make comparisons. So I'm just going to give a small, example here of this report. Was done by the Pew Research Center, that does incredibly good polls, and they basically looked at online harassment in America. This is a report by 2014. You can read, you can find it online if you look for online harassment in Pew Center. And this is their report that shows that young women experience severe forms of online harassment, and especially you can see here 26%. I have to first say that in general they conclude that 73% of internet users have seen someone harassed on the internet. 40% have been harassed. Now, if we look at young women between 18 and 24, they experience particularly high levels of harassment. 26%, which is here, they say that they've been stalked online, and 25% they say that they've been sexually harassed online. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that men are also not, unfortunately the internet can be a really bad place for men too, and men are actually more than women subject to name calling, to embarrassment, and also to physical threats. But it's interesting to me that to women it happens more on social media, and to men it happens more in in gaming environment. I want to conclude with a very small reference to still in America. There was a big case called some women who are working in the video game industry in America, which is a very male-focused and male-dominated industry. They have been victim in August 2014 of coordinated attacks. One of them, she's a game developer, her name is Zoe Quinn, and it started with her new game, and some people started criticizing her because she got too much attention for this game, and they started saying that she had sex with people who reviewed her game and things like this. And then it started being a coordinated attack with threats of rape and death threats, and threats of mass shooting at a university event. Other women started being attacked. Another woman is Anita Sharkisen. She's not a game developer. She has this program where she's a feminist cultural critic basically, and she analyzes especially the representation of women in video games, being represented as sex objects or being on the background. She has a series called Women as Background. And they leaked their home address, and and she's also been subjected to the same type of attacks. So this is to say that in the West there is also this kind of problem. And when Wired Italy wanted to give the Peace Prize to the internet, people like Morozov, Evgeny Morozov, who is an expert of the internet, or even people at the Berkman Center for Internet and Society at Harvard that I interviewed, pointed out how the internet can be used for malware attacks against human rights activists and government critics, and actually it's been increasingly used for that. it's used for propaganda by ISIS right now. It's a way to monitor dissent. It's a way, like there's a book by Eli Pariser called The Filter Bubble that shows how people tend to see only what they want to see, like people who share their own ideas, and they don't see the difference. We're isolated in our bubbles. So all these are negative aspects, and yet I think that mostly by talking to lots of people and seeing stories, I think that in the end, as Ineke was saying, I'm very optimistic, and I do think that it is a way of increasing the space, maybe hopefully also in the real world. Well, thank you everybody, and I hope this was interesting for you.
Thank you very much, Viviana. Thank you very much for this presentation. You presented us so many information that are going to permit us to understand how ICT is empowering women, or actually, as you presented in the second part, how it may be also a danger for women, and a space to not to improve and empower them, but also to harass them. We can move maybe to the third presentation, and then we can open for the discussion. Okay.
Ouejadane, actually, Brenda is with us. So
that's excellent.
What do you think? We can try to see if her internet connection is good, so that she can speak a little bit about Zambia case. So Brenda, I'm going to open your micro. Hello, Brenda. Hello, Brenda. You should open your micro now, because I have deactivated it. Oh, if there are...
Can you hear me?
Yes, Brenda, we can hear you. In the meantime, if there are questions for Viviana, she has to go away. So if someone has some questions, please ask them now. Okay. And Brenda, okay.
So we will expect maybe for some questions from the public, correct? If you have some questions. If not, maybe we can make a question. Just let us know. In the meanwhile, I will present Brenda. Hello, Brenda. Welcome to the webinar. And Brenda Zulu is a Zambian independent ICT. Hi. So Brenda Zulu is a Zambian independent ICT journalist. She's a leader of a media company called the African New Media Group, specialized in delivering Web 2.0 services to its clients and offering also media consultancy. She has interests reporting on ICT, science, agriculture, gender, and social issues. And today she will focus in her presentation on the gender issue related to the ICT's experiences. So let me see if we have some questions to Viviana before giving the floor to Brenda.
No, apparently no.
Not from the public, but may I say a question to Viviana?
Yes.
May I ask a question to
her? Of course, go on.
Okay, as a moderator, of course, I need to have this possibility, and I would like to ask Viviana, also related to what said Ineke before. You said that the virtual space is coming like an extension of the physical space. And this extension, as you showed by the different examples that you presented, are actually good or positive or negative. They may be really very challenging and helping to change things in the countries, reflecting what said Ineke at the beginning, it's the fact that we have women that are leading change in their societies. So some of your examples show these ways of changing the societies by women in being present differently in the virtual space respect to the physical space. If we focus on this positive aspect, do you think that there is really an impact? Is this impact general? Are these women visible? We know that Malala has a very big visibility, but do you think that this impact may be also a political impact in their own countries?
Yes, I think Malala's case is interesting because she is actually controversial among some people in Pakistan. I mean, not everybody supported her. She definitely opened a dialogue about certain things. She definitely, brought the attention, but some people think that she is following Western ideas. Some people accused her of, or her father of, taking advantage of the situation and all sorts of things. But there is an example that, when you talk about what you do virtually, how it has an impact on the physical reality, I think it's important not to do things just in the virtual space, but to do them in the real space. I do believe that change happens also by, through institutions, by changing institutions too. The internet is changing the relationship between people and state, but if you don't have things like an independent judiciary or other aspects that are fundamental for democracy, you don't have a more democratic society. This is a general, statement, I think. One example I didn't talk about, but that to me is very interesting, is a story that I recently covered. There's a woman called Kubra Khademi. She's Afghani, and she is an artist, and she became viral on Twitter recently among people who are in Afghanistan, and also on Facebook, because she, as an artist, she built this sort of an armor, like an iron armor. You might have seen it online. She built this iron armor, and she walked in the streets in Kabul with this armor. And it was a way of kind of protesting against harassment, women, in the streets. And this became viral on the internet. But by doing this physically in the streets, many people saw her. Many people insulted her, and actually she ended up being threatened and hiding because, in her culture, this wasn't accepted. And she, when she talked to me from her hiding space, she was saying, well, I knew that this would have happened, but I wanted to open a dialogue. And that's why I didn't do it just on the internet. I did it, in real life. And whether this changes everything or not, I'm not thinking that this is going to change everything. But I know that there are a number of people like her, and men, not just women, around her, who believe that things like this have to be discussed. And the internet can help open a discussion, but it's not, of course, in my opinion, the only way. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes. Thank you very much. Actually, you pointed the aspect, the issue of the complementarity between internet and the outside. Thank you very much. So, can we give the floor to Brenda?
Yes, and I'm sorry because other questions arrived, but unfortunately we don't have time to answer all of them. So I'm very sorry. We still have 2 speakers who have to...
Okay, so maybe we can manage, as we have time till 8 on the webinar,
exactly.
Maybe to have like 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes per each panelist.
Exactly,
okay?
Yes.
And then we can have some time for the discussion.
Okay, yes.
I let the floor to Brenda.
Brenda, hello. Brenda, can you open your micro? Actually, I cannot because I cannot see your micro in my panel control. Maybe you are facing some internet problem. I guess, okay. Brenda, now I can see you. Hello, Brenda?
Okay. Hello, how are you today?
Okay. Okay, Brenda, we can...
My presentation. You can my presentation from there.
Yes, so I'm going to share your presentation from my monitor, from my desktop. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so here we are with your presentation. Okay, and you can start.
Okay, but I can't see it from here. In case I'll start. I've already been introduced by you. My name is Zulu. On ICT, I passed on gender and ICT. I'm going to share from.
I'm very sorry. I guess that. Oh, Brenda, unfortunately, we are not able to hear you.
Not able to hear me?
Not very
Let
well.
me just check what's happening here. Not very well?
No, unfortunately not. We cannot understand. Try to go on a little bit. Hello, Brenda.
Okay, I want to... Hello?
Hello. No, Ouejadane, I think that we should go on with Viviana and then maybe try with Brenda later. I'm sorry. The presentation was very interesting. We can share it with you, but yes, she is definitely facing internet connection problems. So, okay, I'm going to share Viviana Brun screen. Okay, Viviana. Okay.
So, Viviana Brun, hello Viviana. I think that you are hearing me, so I will briefly present you. Viviana is works in communication for development. She managed some projects that were in field on gender-based violence response and prevention, particularly in Benin, and on gender mainstreaming in Burundi. She worked on a project of the implementation of a crowdsourced mapping tool focused on gender-based violence and SMS alert system in Burundi, and her presentation is dealing with tackling gender-based violence with the support of ICT. So let's give the floor to Viviana.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfectly. Good evening.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Okay, I would like to thank Ouejadane for the kind presentation. As she said, my name is Viviana Brun and just got back from Burundi, where I had the pleasure of working as a consultant for CCM NGO for the realization of some specific activities. In particular, I work in support and collaboration with CCM Burundian partner ISV Centre Seruca for the integration of some ICT in the set of the activity realized by the center. But I think it's better to go more in details. This is the Centre Seruca. You can find more information on the website, so I won't spend so much time the description. Is just Centre Seruca is a specialized center in providing comprehensive care to survivors. It offers medical, psychological, and legal support to gender-based violence survivors. So the center received an average of 120 to 140 new cases per month. So it's a really important reality. It is considered a reference for the issues of gender-based violence in Burundi, especially in Bujumbura area. And it's also realize advocacy activity held on raising awareness on gender-based violence. So the center is working mainly in these two directions: assistance to gender-based violence victims and survivors, and advocacy and public awareness. Okay, so why to integrate ICT in daily activities? We start from that question. We move from the brainstorming on the role that ICT could play and on the contribution they could make in addressing gender-based violence in Burundi. So we asked to Centro Seruca staff to write down their needs and their demands and expectations for improving their job in the near future. So here you can find a summary of the responses. The first one, it was the SECNET, the relationship with the community, make advocacy and allow media to assess and disseminate controlled information. This is a very sensitive issue for the center that is often pressed by journalists who ask the center to share information. But I talk about controlled information because the center has also the need to share information and to raise awareness, but it also has the need to protect the privacy rights of individuals. And the other demands was to reach a greater number of people. I mean, not only the people you can physically go to the center, but even those who live more far away. And allow people to tell their experience while protecting their privacy. The topic linking to privacy, it's really important. I really heard this topic many times in working to Centro Seruca. And be aware of the community needs and share the information with other stakeholders. So we carry out some activities, especially two activities, so trying to respond into these demands. The first one was a reporting and information services via SMS, and the second one is a map of gender-based violence cases. The map illustrates both the reports received via SMS and both the cases received directly by the Centro Seruca. So I just want to introduce you this really important project called ARASMAP. This project was very inspiring for the implementation of our activities. So I just give you the link, so maybe you can go deepen. It's a project that integrates SMS and online reports on sexual harassment in Egypt. And they also create a crowd map to show people to the scale of the problem in order to raise public awareness. So we are working in different contexts, but on the same topic. So it could be interesting for you, I think. But as I said, we decided to create a reporting and information service via SMS. So why we choose mobile technology? Because the number of mobile users in Burundi is increasing. So however, is compared with other African countries like Egypt, for example, mobile users in Burundi are still a minority. The 31% of the population, according to the most recent data available, you can find it here in this short list. But even if they are a minority, the mobile technology spread is still a growing trend, especially in Bujumbura area. So the Agency for Telecommunication states that now some companies are present even in rural area, but for the moment the reality is that the majority of mobile users in Burundi are still in the urban area, as the same area where Centro Seruca is working. So we estimate that this service is able to reach a good number of people, because they are the people that are more aware about this problem of gender-based violence. So yeah, just but you will have the time to deepen the data. This is the origin of cases received by the Centre Seroca. So I just want to show you. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I just want to go fast and just want to show you the tools that we need, because I had this section to show that the tools we use are not that complicated and even expensive. So the practical use of technology is not a more difficult part of the project. It's more difficult to identify which are the needs and what are the most appropriate technology. So as you can see, the tool you need is a basic mobile phone for text messaging, of course, because we have to receive SMS, a computer, a US modem, and a software to distribute and collect information via text messages. In particular, we use Frontline SMS, that is a free and open source software, and another software for linked to Frontline SMS that allows us to collect the SMS, to create a report, and to insert it on the map. So for this challenge, we use crowd map, the basic crowd map. And we need, of course, an internet connection that allows the two previous software to exchange information and let the information to be shown on the online map. So just for just give a look to the whole process. So someone sends a SMS to report a violence, or to request information, or to contact the center. The text message is received by SMS, by Frontline SMS. Frontline SMS sent a reply message in local language, in Kirundi. This is really important to interact with the population, with the context and information about the center. At the same time, Frontline SMS adds the sender in a list of contacts that may be used to send information and messages to any time. And Frontline SMS adds a keyword to the message so that it can be recognized by CrowdMap. The message is now available in the backend of CrowdMap, where there is a person responsible for entries that verifies the message, writes the report, and allows the message to be displayed on the map. And so we arrive at the map. This is the map. Here is an example of how the map looks like. You can find it at the address. You will find it in centreseruca.crowdmap.com. You can navigate the map by choosing different categories. Here is an example of the category rape in public area, but you can choose and navigate the map according to your needs. Each report appears on the map as a colored dot, and when you click on the dot, the full text of the report is displayed, as you can see in this moment. So you can deepen the case and have more details. So the challenges, we are aware that this project presents is a project to raise public awareness on this topic, but as all the projects, the development project, and especially project that integrates ICT, presents some challenges. The first one is linking to illiteracy. Illiteracy will prevent some people to use the service because they are not able to write a text message. So for this first phase of the project, we are particularly focused on Bujumbura area, where this problem is not that important. But we are aware that is a challenge. And the second one is the project sustainability, both technical that means the skills to be able to cope over time to technical problems, and the side of the motivation, so be involved. The staff, they have to be involved in the activity and be motivated. And another one is linking to the need of verifying the information we receive via SMS. If an information cannot be verified, it won't be appear on the map. And the fourth is about violence is still a taboo. Women are ashamed, afraid of being condemned by their community. So this could be a problem to denounce, to send SMS. Another challenge, and this is really, really important, is linking to privacy rights. Anonymity is not an effective means of protecting identity, particularly if you are making information about location available. A victim reporting an incident can have serious repercussions if people could recognize information in the report, like location or time. So details collected in each report could put someone at risk. So you really have to be aware of this possibility. As this is why we decide to give only a few details and not to add very recent cases. And the other one is ICT knowledge and skills are required. This is why we have to adopt a capacity building strategy. And the last one is we don't know how many women are owning a mobile phone. So we only have data about the population in general. It's early to talk about the results, but because we launched the service just last week, but we have to be aware that probably not too many women have the possibility to send SMS. For the community mobilization, the promotion of the new services, we are especially investing on existing skills. So we are trying to, it's a new service, but we are not new on the subject. So it's important to valorize the experience of CCM, NGO, and of the Santa Seruca in fighting against gender-based violence. And they are able to mobilize the population because they are a long relationship. So I just wanna show you some image of the information campaigns we started last week to spread the phone number and to inform the population. This is a sticker we realized to promote the service on buses and on taxis in Bujumbura. And we also decide to start a collaboration with Burundian journalists working on gender and gender-based violence topic to promote the SMS service. And we started an exchange on how to do better, how to better cover gender-based violence topic on the media. So I think this is the end. I thank you for your attention. I'm really curious about your contribution. I'm so sorry because I go really fast, but I know I want to let you more time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Viviana. I think that we have finished with the panelists, correct? Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you, Viviane, for your contribution. I would like to make a small, let's say, not summary, but I took some points that all of you presented that I would like to use for the conclusions, let's say, for the first conclusions, and then to open to questions. We received some interesting questions. And as you followed in this webinar, different phases of the use of ICT were presented by our panelists. First of all, I would like to point on some aspects that Ineke said regarding the development, because here we are facing three aspects: the development, ICT use, and gender issues. It was very important, I think, to say that for the development, and here we are speaking about North-South development, to point on how you see yourself. And here, Ineke said that it was important to look inside each person who is working in the development, but also to look inside these women and make them speak and try to understand what are their voices. I am a woman from the South living in North, and I am working also in co-development between North and South. And I'm involved in both sides. So I think that these aspects are very important to understand how you represent yourself, how you see the others, and how the development process is seen between these two parts of the world, the North and the South. And another aspect is very important, the awareness about the gender issue. It is not obvious that the gender issue is central in the thought of people, nor in the North, and neither in North and nor in South. It is not obvious to think about women and also by women. It is not part of our cultures, let's say, even if institutions are pushing to do it, and most of all NGOs are working on gender issues. How women see other women, how much the traditions have weight in some countries. And here I would like to attach my consideration to a question that arrived from the public that said that's asked about Italian women and violence. And I think that the women issue, and we know it, facing the development and also the ICT issue and ICT use for helping women, is not only South matter. It is women matter in general, and also women in North are interested by those solutions. I think that there is a transversality, a big transversality in women issues and gender issues from North to South and vice versa. The North-South history in heritage. Ineke said that. I can tell you that it is very heavy. It's a very heavy in heritage that the relationship between North and South is, has. And it is not only something related to the long past. I think that we have also in the present a lot of pressures, a lot of, let's call them strange relationships between North and South. And development in this is maybe victim of this kind of relations that are economical pressures, political pressures, wars, terrorism, and so on. So development is depends a lot on these aspects. You spoke, all of you, about a need of changing societies and women as leading in these changes of societies. I think that these aspects are very important. The ICT aspect showed, as you presented, that women in virtual spaces may be present differently than in physical spaces. So this may be a first point to use in order to change the women presence in the public arena. So maybe we can open questions regarding the presence of women in media, in the public space. Women enter in the public space in some countries only by the social media, by the blogs, and it is very important. And they are breaking many taboos by ICT use. This is something that is for me very important, I think, because more than the impact that will be on the society, that will change directly the society, I think that what you said about women's actions using ICT is that they break a lot of taboos that were completely unsaid. There was silence about that. So it is connected to the last point I present in this conclusion slide, the speech against the silence. What you said, Viviana, at the end regarding the women's expression against violence by using SMSs, by using this platform, is that you give the possibility to women to speak and to go out from the silence by sharing their experiences. Also, Ineke said that regarding the women, their relationship with the heritage and so on. Taboos, but with a very big tradition weight. There is a huge presence of tradition that is going not against the, that is not going, as you said, with the education level or the professional skills of the women, but it is a very big presence in their life choices, in their relationship with men, in their relationship with their families. So that is not helping women in developing and empowering themselves in the society. So there was a question from the public that was interesting, asking, about those women that don't want to empower themselves, those women that are closed in their traditions, that don't want to change their traditions. How should we act with them? How should we have impact on them? Are you going to propose to try to change their minds, or to let them continue in their traditional ways, or not to face what Viviana said, and also Viviana Mazza, both Viviana said that the women that come with Western actions, or those actions that people in their countries call Western, are seen bad. So how can we face this? This may be a first question. So for my conclusions, virtual spaces are as freedom spaces, with using some feminine but not only feminine aspects, a humor, a different presence without the foulard, the visibility of activists, of women activism. The virtual spaces with gender-based virtual violence is the response to the freedom spaces that are created into the internet. And I think that for this aspect we can present a first conclusion, that is regarding the use of ICT, not applications but social media and open and public blogs. Is that it looks like the virtual space looks like a continuity of the physical space. So as we have violence in the physical space, we have violence on the internet. As we have harassment of women in the physical space, there is harassment of women on the internet. But sometimes what is interesting is that when we don't have freedom in the physical space, we may have some freedom exercise in the virtual space. This aspect is very important. I come from Tunisia. It was the first country that made the revolution in the Arab era. We are entering in democracy, and the internet space was the first space where we can meet, where we could meet and discuss, where we could express ourselves, not only as women, but also as citizens, free citizens, something that we couldn't do in the real space. We could meet on the internet when we couldn't meet in the real space, in the physical space. So the ICT created this space, not an instrument, but a real space where to meet, where to speak, where to discuss, where to decide, and where to show what was happening in the factual space, in the physical space, in terms of violence and in terms of political harassment and violence against the citizens in the dictatorship time. So surely women have a lot of possibilities there. in most countries where they don't have the possibility to be present in the physical space. And something interesting also came out. It is the fact that we are not anymore speaking about the technological divide, even if Viviana said that in Burundi they don't have a very big coverage of cellular phones, but I think that Burundi is one of those countries that is really very poor country, where they are developing, and as you said, it is improving, but technology is not expensive. Technology is everywhere. Women can access to technology, so we should think about designing some ICT tools and to permit to women to use them, not only in South countries. Italy is one of those countries where the technological divide is very big. We don't have a lot of coverage of use of internet through the country and through women. So maybe we can think about a transversal solution, looking to co-development from north to south. So I spoke a lot. I hope that we have more time for questions. I conclude here.
Thank you very much. Well, some questions arrived, but I think that it's a little bit late. So I would like to know if Ineke wants to add something, because maybe some questions were addressed to her field. So Ineke, would you like to express your opinion about what Ouejadane just said? Ineke, maybe I have to, okay. Ineke, probably now you can speak. Hello, Ineke? Ineke, hello?
Hello?
Hello, okay, we can hear you. Yes, now yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thank you, Ouejadane. I found Ouejadene's, I hope I pronounced it correctly. I found your comment very, very interesting, very thoughtful, and I just want to add something, and that is that that as scientists and designers working in ICT4D, we should not forget that that while in a way there is this idea that technology gets more and more affordable, that very often when a household budget is not very big, ICT is used at the expense of other very necessary household expenses, like food, like school fees or school uniforms. So what I think we have to be aware of is that although we ourselves are in love with technology, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do the work I do without technology. We have to be aware of the fact that ICT technology is in a way another force and coercion also on people to participate in. And since we operate in a what we call neo-liberal global economy, where the consumer is the ideal citizen and profits are the bottom line, we have to be aware of not forgetting the basic questions. And the basic questions, of course, are: why do men rape women? Why would we have to design something for a crime that shouldn't exist? So I just want to speak a word of caution here, and especially say to us, people working in the field of ICT4D, let's not forget that with all our love and hope towards ICT, that we don't forget to ask the basic questions, like why are there so many people who don't have money to eat? Why is there so much war? And why do men rape women? Yeah, that's basically what I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ineke. Thank you very much. I maybe just add one last reflection. As I told you before, I am Tunisian and working also in ICT, and one of the most important questions I asked myself 4 years ago when the revolution began in Tunisia was why we never had freedom in our country. So actually I agree totally with you, but when ICT helped us to access at least to a virtual area with freedom, we were very happy, and we used it very well to disturb at least a little bit the dictatorship. So I think that if there is an instrument that may help women and that may help people also to reflect and to discuss about those questions and those issues that you said, ICT is a very good instrument, and I am very happy to have participated to this webinar with all of you, and that ICT permitted us to meet and to discuss, because discussions are those parts of our culture that we have to develop in order to go through the right issues and the right questions. Thanks to all of you. Serena, I will give you the floor.
Yes, thank you. Well, we can imagine that this kind of topics open a sea of questions and reflections. So many questions arrived about how if the mobile users are equally distributed between male and female, how cultural aspects influence the use of ICTs, if the government are supporting the access to ICT for women, etc., etc. So I'm happy that the interest is high. I'm sure that you can contact our speakers and go on with the conversation also with us, with NGO 2.0. And I probably, given all these questions, we can organize a new webinar about it, or writing articles. I think that starting from Ineke Buskens' book can be already one step. And it's a topic with many challenges. So we have seen positive sides and negative sides. And of course, the context of development is the most challenging, if I can say it. As Ouejadane highlighted, we have to design technologies having people in the center. So if we start from these, if we start taking consideration that we are going to work with people, and especially with women in this case, then everything is easier, because we can take in consideration their context, their environments, their needs, their cultures. So it was just 2 hours of speaking, but we could stay here, I think, for 48 hours. And not maybe finding a point, unless that every context is different, everyone is different, and in general, working within ICTs means studying and analyzing the context. If I don't know if I'm... Yes.
Serena, is it correct that webinar was registered?
Yes,
recorded? Can you say to us where we can find the link to access to it afterwards?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we can share it. It is important. Yeah.
Yes. I will share it in the next days, in the following days, the registration, the recorded video, and also your slides. if you allow me to share them with the audience, but I guess that there is no problem. And I hope that we will have the opportunity to continue the debate. So thank you all for being here. Finally, we stayed until 8, so thank you for your availability. Thank you to all our speakers, Ouejadane, Ineke, Brenda, even if she couldn't really speak, Viviana, Valeria, and all the colleagues from CCM.
Thanks to you, thanks to all of you.
Thank you, and sorry if at the beginning we had some technical problems, but yes, it's a technology. So
yes, technology is good when it works.
Also some human failures.
Yes, yes, and sorry if we couldn't reply to all your questions. Okay, so have a good night, and thank you all again. See
Good
you
evening to everybody.
Next time.
Thank you very much. Thank
Hello.
you, and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.